Welcome. My name is Cihan Çobanoglu. I am the Dean of College of Hospitality and Technology Leadership. Today is an amazing and exciting day for us because we are having two wonderful events at the same time. This morning, I went to Bradenton Area Convention Center, and they revealed their new brand name, which I wear my pin here, Bradenton, Anna Maria, and Longbow Key area. And so we celebrate that. At the same time, we have an exciting guest speaker here today with us, Mr. Mahmoud Danani. He is the Vice President, Food and Beverage Business Optimization of Walt Disney Parks and Resorts. What we will be doing here is that we have our students, and they prepared very hard questions for Mr. Danani, and they are going to ask that, and we'll have an interactive discussion between him and our students. So before we start that, and I asked Mr. Danani to introduce himself, a little bit background, tell about what he has done in 17-year career at Disney. But before we do that, I would like to go around the room and have our students introduce themselves quickly, and then we'll run the show. Thank you. Michael?
Hello. My name is Michael Martinez. I'm a first-year student here at the Masters for Hospitality Management. And a little bit about myself. I'm 23 years old. I'm Colombian. Born in Chicago, so my background is Colombian. And I look forward to hearing all the great information we'll get from this.
My name is Simon Vaz, and I am a first-year master's student. I'm an instructor of hospitality culinary management at the Art Institute of Tampa, and I'm originally from Jamaica.
Hello, my name is Maria Nicoletta Lahip, and I am an undergraduate student here. This is my senior year, and I'm originally from St. Petersburg, Florida.
Hi, I'm Abby Rogers. I'm an undergraduate here at Sarasota, and a junior, and I'm trying to work up and open up my own bakery. So it's a great experience for me.
Hi, my name is Ashley Harbaugh. I am 24 years old, and I'm an undergraduate here at the Hotel and Restaurant program in USF Sarasota. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Anna. I came from Russia for the master's program here. I'm very passionate about hospitality industry, and I want to become a professor. Thank you.
And we'll go here.
Hello, my name is Günce. I'm another international student in master program. This is my second year, and I'm from Turkey.
Hey, my name's Evan. I am currently a senior and doing my undergrad here in hospitality management. I'm originally from New Jersey.
My name is Michael. I just finished my bachelor's from here, University of South Florida, Sarasota, Manatee. I'm currently working as a manager at Bonefish Grill.
Hi, my name is Maria Fidelibus. I am currently in the master's program for hospitality management, and I got my undergraduate degree at New College of Florida, and I'm interested in working in the restaurant and hotel industry.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Now I would like to ask Mr. Danani to start the conversation by telling a little bit about your career and how you get to the position that you currently have, and then we'll take the questions after that.
Good afternoon. So I won't bore you. I'll keep this to about an hour. Okay, is that good? No, that shows you how old I am. I was born and raised in Africa, Indian by descent, but grew up in Kenya, born in Nairobi. Moved to Zaire. I was in Zaire for 6 years. I was at the age of 13 at that point. And one morning, my parents woke my brother and I up about 4 o'clock in the morning and said, hey, it's time for you to go visit Grandma in Kenya. So curious why we got woken up as a surprise. Love to go see Grandma all the time. So we got in the car, get to the airport, we're whisked away, we go to Kenya. Remember, we were in Zaire at this point. We go to Kenya to go see Grandma. A few days later, my parents show up. And they said, we're leaving our house and we're going to be moving to Canada. Come to find out, we basically snuck out of the country because you couldn't go as a family out of the country, so you had to go separately. And because times were so tough in Congo at that point, or Zaire, we went to Canada as refugees. And so arrived in Canada, so you think about a culture shock with really nothing. And my father was working on its third shift custodian in a car parts factory, and my mother was working in a shoe factory. And we started life all over again. And so that's my story of getting to Canada. While I was in Canada, did most of my influential schooling, went to hotel school at Fanshawe College in London, Ontario, and fell in love with this industry. And fell in love with it because it was about taking care of people and making other people happy. And for us to be good in this industry, you have to genuinely care about others and want to make sure others are happy. From Canada, I met my wife, Christine, and we moved to Memphis, Tennessee, where her parents were. My son had just been born, so we wanted to be close to her family. Moved to Memphis, Tennessee. I worked for Hyatt Regency there. And from Hyatt Regency, I moved to Tampa, Florida to work for Saddlebrook Golf and Tennis Resort. And I was there for five years, and one day, phone rings. I pick up the phone, and it was Disney on the other line. And they said, hey, would you be interested in talking to us to open up our first off-site resort? And I was really cool. Well, let me think about it, whatever. Let me call you back. I hung up the phone, and I was screaming in my office, oh my God, Disney just called. And the reason why I was so excited is because this is a brand that 9 out of 10 people around the world know. It's such a great value brand. It's about family, it's about wholesome entertainment, that immediately I was incredibly excited. Really cool on the phone, but I went home, talked to my family. Everybody says, let's do it. I called Disney back, started the interview process, and 17 years later, here I am still with Disney. And my time with Disney involved, and I won't go through all of the details, but I've been a food and beverage manager of places. I've been a general manager for a hotel. I've been in charge of transportation and water parks and mini golf. I've been vice president of lodging. Recently was vice president of concept development for food and beverage, and my current position of vice president of food and beverage business optimization.
Wonderful. So we will take the questions. Whoever wants to start, go right ahead.
As you kind of you've worked your way down south from Canada. What once you arrived in Tampa, what event in your career really made you decide that you want to come and work for Disney?
So, well, when I was at Saddlebrook Golf and Tennis Resort, I'd been there for 5 years, and we just talked about this over lunch. I was working 6 and 7 days a week, and I was a work junkie. I could work 7 days a week, 14 hours a day. It wouldn't bother me. But I realized, I have a wife, 2 children, very young children, that I have a responsibility as a father and a husband to spend a little bit of time with them and not have work compromise that. And when Disney called, I realized that, this is my opportunity to go work for a company who is established on great values, believes in the balance of your personal life versus professional life. And if you think about the opportunities that could be provided to you at Disney versus this private place that I worked in, it was a no-brainer for me. It was an immediate yes in my mind. And I just kept my fingers crossed that I do well in the interview process and get offered the job.
Mr. Denani, I would like to ask you about your most favorite and most challenging part of your position in Disney.
Okay. So my favorite is really making sure that the guest experience is world-class. It's something that people walk away and will remember for the rest of their life. That on special occasions they think about the times that they spent at Disney and always say, wow, what a great experience I had, and Disney made it magical for me and my family. So I love that. This is why you come to work every day. The most challenging becomes the fact that we are so big that getting great talent is really difficult. In North America, our profession of hospitality is still growing. It's still developing its roots. It's not how a European person would consider somebody who's in the hospitality industry. It's a true profession equal to being a doctor. So this is one of my challenges. How do you get talented people who think about this as a profession that is lifelong profession, something you can be incredibly proud of, and has as much value as somebody who happens to be a doctor or a lawyer? And that challenge of getting talent is the reason I love coming to talk to students, because one day you could be working for Disney. And it's important for us, being in the business, this is our responsibility to give back a little bit any way we can to help students think about how to form their career. And any advice we can provide you, it's important for us as professions to maintain the integrity in our profession.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If you could pick any other position at Disney, what position would you pick?
Goofy. Yeah. How cool would that be, is you get in a costume and you have fun and nobody really knows who you are, and, right? It's just, all you're doing is having fun all day long. I don't have to worry about if I'm making money in the business or not. I can just go and act goofy and nobody knows who I am. It'd be really cool. And that's really true. I would love to do that. I don't know if I could afford my lifestyle, but I would love to be goofy.
What gets you up in the morning and keeps your motivation going every day?
I think really the two things. The fact that I'm able to lead people and teach and develop others. That is really, really important to me, because as people that work with me or work for me or work around me grow into bigger positions, it's like being a proud parent. You see people doing great, and as they develop, as they get into higher positions, there's this sense of pride. That's one. Number two really is about the guest experience. Remember, we decided to join the hospitality business, and that is about taking care of other people. And that, when I read letters, when a guest says, you know what, Shihab treated me so nicely, paid special attention to my children. We get stories all the time of people, of children who may have terminal disease, and their last wish is to come to Disney and see Mickey Mouse or have this experience. When you read a letter like that, it makes it all worthwhile. So those are two really, other than the fact that there's a business and you're making money, all of that, that is secondary to me. It's about leading people and making sure the experiences for other people are phenomenal.
What one line best describes the Disney vision for your food and beverage offerings?
Creating memorable experiences that last a lifetime. Okay.
That's kind of the vision statement.
Mhm.
Also for
Right,
Disney,
yeah.
too,
I remember that.
That's great, yeah.
So, the next question is coming from me. Everyone knows that Disney has a very diversified, like, work environment, and I was wondering, like, as one of the leaders, how do you make sure that you employ everyone from all around the world? I mean, what do you do for it?
So diversity is really, really important to Disney. Diversity is not just about the people of different color. It's diversity is about people who have different thinking, have different experiences, different cultures, because to really create the best idea, you need diverse thinking to be able to get to a level where maybe other people don't get to. We spend also a lot of time to make sure that when we look at the profile of our cast members, we call them cast members, not employees, that we have hired people that look like our guest. If we have a lot of people who happen to be Asian, we have to make sure we have Asian cast members. If we have a lot of African Americans visiting, and we have all people from all around the world. it is much more comforting that if you go somewhere and you see people that are like you, who you may be able to go to and say, let me speak in Japanese, because I'm not really good with English. It's really important to have all of those. We recently just opened a hotel in Hawaii. And this is a conversation we had from the beginning when we started the development, was about respecting the culture that we're in, making sure we have a diverse cast. We were going to get a lot of Japanese guests, so we, in purpose, decided to hire a lot of Japanese because we have to make sure our Japanese guests are comfortable when they arrive. So this is a great question and very important, not just to Disney. It should be important to every company to make sure that they're very diverse in what their hiring strategy is.
And on the same note, as a leader, what characteristics are you looking for who can potentially join your team?
Number one is to make sure that you have somebody who is willing to learn. I think one of the biggest roadblocks when it comes to people when they get into the work environment, they feel like they know it all already. And if you're not willing to learn, you will fail to be great. So that's the attitude that we're looking for all the time. Leadership, to a degree, is something that you're born with. There's a difference. People who like to always lead, and some learn leadership. You have to always, always, always learn your trade. Even after you graduate, the hospitality business constantly evolves. You have to make sure you are studying the business all the time. You're studying your guest trends, etc. So think about, somebody who really is willing to learn. The other thing is to have people who are humble. We all will make thousands of mistakes in our career. You have to be humble enough to realize you've made the mistake and make sure that you acknowledge that you've made a mistake. Learn from it. Even in my position today, leading a lot of people, there are times when I make a mistake, the first thing I say to my team or others is, I'm really sorry. I made a mistake. I think this was a wrong decision. Let's talk about how to fix it. You have to have humility in every position that you have. And people will respect you if you can always portray that you're a human being and not a robot that does everything perfectly.
Can you talk a little bit about your employee training program and what you do with that?
So this is something we're very, very proud of. So I'll give you an example. We call one of our training programs for leadership foundations, and it's 3 months. So I don't know what training program there is at Bonefish, but 3 months. By the way, Bonefish is one of my favorite restaurants. I love going and having the appetizers are great.
Yeah, I can't get that meal.
Yeah, but the training program is 3 months long. And what we do is we immerse the leaders in what we call in-costume training. We actually put them in the uniforms of our cast members, and they work side by side with frontline employees or cast members and make sure they learn every step of the process and how things get done. And learn to appreciate what everyone does. So if somebody who is working at the French fryer, and we make a lot of French fries at Disney, okay, imagine how difficult that job is. Every day you are making French fries for thousands of people. If you don't understand what they go through all day long, you're never going to be an effective leader. So this in-costume training we talk about, they're immersed in the positions and learning those. They gain respect. Then, at the end of every, what we call a segment of their foundations program, one of their leaders does an assessment. Teaching is good. Learning is important. So what we do through the assessment is to make sure that all the training that's been provided, did they learn from that training? If they did not gain the knowledge we wanted them to, we potentially could put them through the foundations program, that segment again. If we see a lot of segments that aren't being learned, we may make a decision that this person may not be the right leader for us. But it's important as a company for us is to make sure we've given the individual the right training and the right time to be successful.
I'd like to ask you, is Disney's food and beverage department making an effort to evolve their menus and accommodate rising health concerns such as lower sodium, lower calories?
Absolutely. Great question. I think this, 10 years ago, if you would have talked to me about it, could have called it a fad. Healthier menus, vegetarian, let's talk about low sodium, etc. Today, it's a reality. Of course, the obesity rates that are in the U.S. are just tremendously out of control. That we as a company, especially as a company that believes in wholesome family vacations, we have a responsibility to be a good corporate citizen and do that. So I don't know if you're in the presentation this afternoon. I'll talk a little bit more in detail, but we are reducing sodium. We're talking about high HFCS, high fructose corn syrup. How do we get that out of our product? We've made huge strides in that. We just rolled out a new hamburger bun, and we sell almost 12 million hamburgers a year between California and Florida. We've just introduced a new bun that has no HFCS. We're working on a program to remove that in some of our condiments. So sugar, we're also talking about kids' meals to have this balanced approach of not to exceed X number of calories from fat, and then the amount of sodium we have in each one of those meals. So this is a huge focus for us on the children and for all of our menus. We handle, if I remember correctly, in a year, 56,000 requests for guests who need something because of a special dietary need. And our rule is if you come to a restaurant and ask for something special that is due to a dietary restriction or an allergy, a chef comes to your table and talks to you about what your allergy is. So imagine being a chef, right? And just imagine being the parent. So think about it, Bonefish, if you institute that rule.
That's exactly what I'm thinking about right now. Is
Okay.
how many little requests that we get.
Right. And it's a growing trend. In 3 years ago, I think it was 36,000 that we handled personally. It's now at 56,000 in 3 years. It's going to continue. Allergies continue to rise, and people's preferences continue to change. Some of the requests are not because I'm allergic to pine nuts. It's like I just don't like pine nuts. We have to make that change. So it is critical that, Evan, we're continuing to look at that and making sure that health and wellness becomes a primary focus and a primary responsibility for us. In fact, Disney even announced that we will not allow certain companies to advertise on our broadcasting networks if their product exceeds a certain amount of sugar per portion.
Really?
That's a big statement.
Next question. Because the holidays are coming very, very fast, they're fastly approaching, are you adding any specific holiday food onto the park and resort menus to get people more into the holiday spirit?
Absolutely. This is one of the times we love because Disney actually just completely transforms into the holiday mode. Everywhere you go, magically overnight, the elves come and set up Christmas lights everywhere. So every park is decorated, every resort is decorated, downtown Disney is decorated. So when you get there, you are immersed into the holiday season. And it's not just holiday as we consider as Christmas. It's just the holiday season. We respect all cultures when we do this. But the menus, we put turkey on our QSR menus, and they become 70% of our mix for the day. Everybody wants turkey on Thanksgiving. On Christmas, we do turkey or ham. We'll do platter. Every restaurant has a special that is themed to the holiday. It could be a pre-fee menu, which you're starting with an appetizer, an entree, and a dessert, all geared towards the holidays. And it's important, no matter what holiday it is, to make sure your menu reflects that occasion, because it does allow the guest to feel at home and feel comfortable, because that's what they would have eaten with their family as a tradition. We're just having them come join us but still follow their family tradition.
What type of food and beverage cost control techniques does your department use to continue to generate high profits?
So this is, because I'm the Vice President of Business Optimization, I have an entire department that focuses on this. What we do, number one, is before an item is developed, let's say a chef wants to put a new menu item on their menu. They have to send the recipe to this team. And what we do is we take the recipe, we break down all of the portion costs, understand exactly what the cost of that item is. We talk to our revenue management department that says this is the right price that you should sell this item at based on internal benchmarking as well as external benchmarking. We create our cost of sales. At that point, we say yay or nay, whether you should have this item on the menu or not, because the cost could be out of what we consider the appropriate range. The caveat to that is in our specialty restaurants. So these are the high-end restaurants. Our chefs have a little bit more latitude, because what you don't want to do is have these chefs that are incredibly creative, and every time they want to do a menu change, have to go through this process, because it may limit their creativity. So for those chefs, we say, look, we want you to run a 32% food cost. Do what you need to do, and make sure that you're as creative as you possibly can be.
A quick follow-up. Do you have a set percentage on your profits of a food or not really?
There's not a set percentage. There's a guideline you think about, okay? There's different guidelines we have several tiers of restaurants. So QSR, which happens to serve most of our guests, is the one that we get most of our margin out of. Their cost of sales is much lower than you would in a family table service restaurant, a different cost for a buffet restaurant, completely different cost base for a steakhouse, because we know those proteins are incredibly expensive. The most important thing that we focus on is margin. Sometimes your cost of sales in a steakhouse could end up being 36, 37%, but if your margin per guest is higher than another restaurant, really at the end of the day, those are the dollars you're going to take to the bank. So Simon, we use cost of sales percentage as a guideline, but it's not something that, we completely think about.
Thank you.
Hi. A few of us were recently able to go to the conference in Miami for FS Tech, and at the conference, one of the topics they brought up and discussed is this new emerging software that's able to monitor various social media, such as Facebook and Twitter and Yelp and TripAdvisor, and take the data from each of those different social media and compile it in such a way that you can evaluate your progression. I was wondering, what ways does Disney track their customer satisfaction level?
So we have folks who track all of the social media and the feedback we get all the time. And we get alerts if something comes up that's unusual, or on a monthly basis, they'll compile data for us to look at to understand trend information. We also have our own, what we call GSM, Guest Satisfaction Measurement, where we send surveys to guests who've stayed at our property. Or in hotels, we have people who are actually doing surveys all day long. So what that does is it gives the general manager of the hotel and its leadership team real-time feedback. So you'll know, it's what I call is having a pulse on the guest experience, how things are going. You'll get a daily understanding of what happened. If you have a morning meeting with all of your leadership team and you look at your scores and you're like, whoa, what happened yesterday? Oh, all our POS has crashed. So you have a reason or understanding of what happened. If not, you could solve for it very quickly. If you happen to have a guest who's had a really poor experience, somebody can contact the guest immediately, recover immediately while they're staying there, so they can have a great vacation, rather than them going home and then calling back or writing back and saying that I had a problem. So I think GSM for us is really important. Social media, we have to continue to stay on top of, because it is as real time as you can get. So we have teams who look at that all the time, and using social media for marketing as well.
Of course. Thank you.
You're welcome.
How does Disney manage its relationship with your suppliers? And being such a large company, does that give you, do you think that gives you more or less bargaining power with them?
So number one, we have an entire department that's called sourcing and procurement. We also have a department that just handles supply chain. Those are very different things, right? One is outsourcing product, one is making sure that it's getting to you as efficiently as possible in the best quality as possible. So supply chain does that, sourcing and procurement helps find product for us. And their job is just, if we have a group with the chefs and they say, you know what, we want to get an airline chicken breast, we want it to be 8 ounces, and this is the quality we're looking for. Sourcing and procurement starts going to look for people who provide that product. They come back to the executive chefs, they do a taste panel, they agree on which one they want to get to, sourcing then negotiates price. Your second question, with the volume we have, we absolutely have tremendous leverage on pricing. If you think about it, if we sell 12 million hamburgers a year, right? If I go to a beef company saying, you want to sell me patties? They're going, yes, sir. And we can get a really good price. Plus, now remember, that's just between Walt Disney World and Disneyland, California. Cruise line. And we got 4 ships now. And guess what? Everybody eats on that ship, right? And they eat a lot. So that volume helps leverage that. There are things that we leverage with our international sites. So if I think about China, flatware, glassware, so much of this product is coming from China anyways. Why not leverage that volume and make sure that between our Tokyo location, our Hong Kong location, we add their volume. So it's a tremendous asset for us to be able to leverage pricing. And that, Simon, is just as important for us in getting a better cost of sales than managing just the product itself.
I actually work in park operations at Epcot as an attractions coordinator. Yes,
Yay.
I love it. What I want to know is how does the food and beverage department work with park operations on a daily basis to ensure the guests are happy and satisfied?
So on a daily basis, and so Epcot, right? If you think about the administrative building,
Yes.
right? So Mandy is right in the same office building as your vice president Aaron is, as well as Emilio,
Oh, very cool.
right?
Yes.
So there's obviously just the ability to get outside your office and talk. There are weekly meetings, there are planning meetings to understand. Food and beverage has to know what attendance looks like in the park, which Emilio would provide. Emilio is the director of park operations, and Mandy is the general manager of food and beverage at Epcot. So Amelia provides that information to Mandy. Mandy's got to make sure that they translate that attendance into what a forecast of covers would be at each of the locations, to then create a staffing to be able to meet that. And those are completely dependent. That's a marriage that must be successful to be able to work well together. And just culturally at Disney, and hopefully you've seen this, it's just really always the relationships are incredibly close, and we are very interdependent on making decisions.
Okay, so he's gonna go.
All right. Growing up in Orlando and having a lot of family members that at one point worked for Disney, I'd have to say probably 20 to 30 times I've been to Disney before.
Thank you.
And
We appreciate the business.
I noticed the changes and, sometimes different attractions and whatnot. But I would like to see, since you do have a general broad understanding of where Disney's going, where would you see Disney, or what major changes would you see Disney within the next 10 to 20 years?
Well, so immediately, Magic Kingdom is going to go through an expansion, first time in its history. It's called the Fantasyland expansion, where we're adding an entire land. Land are pieces of the park that have themes, so we're adding that. That's a huge investment for us. Of course, you saw us grow our cruise lines from 0 to 2 to 4. We're opening up Shanghai, right? So parks, resorts, there's a master plan for all of those. Initially, we'll open with 1 park, 2 resorts, in a downtown Disney. If anyone knows that downtown Disney is a regional entertainment center where you have retail entertainment, and food and beverage. So we'll open that up in Shanghai and think about expansions. That'll open in 15 with master planning beyond that to grow. In Animal Kingdom, we just announced the fact that we're going to work with Avatar, right? So we bought the rights to the Avatar movie, okay, and to be able to take their, what we call equity, and put that into Animal Kingdom. So we'll have an entire land dedicated to Avatar. And if you think about Avatar just launched one movie, they're about to launch more, that when you think about that as a franchise, it has life still to come, right? So that's something you'll see. And we will continue to look at investment both domestically as well as internationally, because for us to grow as a company, we have to think about expanding our portfolio to make sure that we're looking at all the right sources of revenue that we do. And remember, Disney, when we think, it's not parks and resorts, even though that's who I work for, you know, ABC, ESPN, there's so many magazines and book companies we own, television rights, et cetera, that the distribution channel for us for our content is significant. We just bought Marvel. I don't know if anybody knows that, so we bought Marvel. That's, you know, I mean, I don't know if anyone saw Avengers. I went to see Avengers. It was really good, you know. And from that, you think about all of that equity now, how we can leverage Marvel across the world. So there is tremendous growth. Disney is still got a lot of room to grow, and it will grow.
One other question. As far as this expansion, how is the customer going to be affected with the price point in a small family trying to get together enough money to come and see all these wonderful things you're going to be having?
Yeah. So typically, you will not see us raise prices because we expanded Magic Kingdom. The pricing strategy is completely different. It is separate from saying, okay, just because I did this, I'm going to charge you more. But remember, our pricing strategy for tickets for parks is the same price, right? At each park, it's the same price. If you buy a one-day ticket, you buy park hoppers, which you buy for your length of stay. So if it's 5 days, it costs you X. You can come and go wherever you want as long as you want. So we can't really have a pricing strategy that says, I'm going to charge you more at Magic Kingdom because I'm expanding. The strategy is as a whole. But the question you ask is affordability, right? Okay, so we are not cheap, but I can guarantee you that when you come and experience Disney for the time you do, and the value you get for once you've paid that price, everything really is free, unless you want to buy food and beverage or merchandise, right? Your experiences are free. There's not too many places can match that in value for the entertainment that you're provided.
You've talked about forecasting and future plans, but what do you think the future demand from the guest is going to be?
So I think the guest is going to continue to look for value and not compromise quality. I think we're under a tremendous amount of pressure to be able to produce high quality items and make sure that they're still affordable. And I think what we went through in the last 5 or 6 years in economics, everyone is fighting, right? So you think about Bonefish and same store sales. How do you maintain that when the economy is down? We're all fighting for that same guest. And discounting has become kind of, you know, second nature now for companies, is how do you then entice that guest to come to you and give them a better price? Well, what's going to happen is the guests are conditioned to that. And as the economy starts recovering, it's not as simple as raise the prices back to where they were 3 or 4 years ago. You have to wean the guest off this condition of discounting. So I think we're under a tremendous amount of pressure. It's going to be tough. I think what we have to think about for the future is how to continue to look at our cost base and not compromise on your quality or make the guest suffer, but get smarter about how you run your business. How do you leverage technology to make sure that the guest experience is never compromised, but you're running a better operation? How do you think about leveraging your cost of sales to make sure that, can you get the same item at a better price? Is there a different item that you need to do? How do you look at your menu mix? Constantly study your menus and just say that, you know what, I think I can switch to a different item. I'm still going to get a good popularity. It'll still be a star, but it's going to cost me less per item, so my margin will stay the same. So I think it's a tremendous amount of pressure for us in the industry right now.
Oh, it's kind of a follow-up question. Like, you talking about the future demand, but what I was wondering, like, especially in your department, because it's all about food and beverage, I mean, how do you forecast for next day that, like, how many people are going to come, and how do you prepare those food? I mean, I'm sure many of them needs, like, beforehand preparation, so who decides for that?
Right, so we have an entire department that, part of the revenue management organization, they do forecasting for us. And what's happened is over time you understand that if your attendance at the park is going to be 50,000, that based on a 50,000 attendance day, there's analytics that you apply to say, here's my capture rate for each of my restaurants by meal period. So then you know how many covers you're going to do. From that, you apply your staffing guides to come up with your staffing schedule. And then you also then understand through your menu mix, is that on a 50,000 person day, if I'm going to capture X number of guests for lunch, my typical mix is, hey, 52% steak, 32% chicken dish. By dish, you have a mix. So you can start predicting that I need to order X amount of product and make sure that we're prepared to feed this many people, and these are the items we think will sell. So it's basically, you think about a production list that's done through all of this analytics based on historical data. You always have to collect that historical data to be able to help you for the future.
So, I'm sorry, the next question. So what do you do about the waste of food that you produce daily basis? I mean, are you sending to them somewhere, or like?
So we give food away to Second Harvest, which is a major organization. And what they do is they come to each one of our kitchens, they collect the food. There are some rules that some food, just once it's prepared, if it's not consumed, it gets thrown out. But if there's some things that still pass our food safety guidelines, they come and pick it up and then provide that to people who need the food. Now, we're proud to give to Second Harvest. We should never be proud about giving a lot to anyway, because then you're not managing your food waste, right? The other thing that becomes a concern when it comes to food waste is, how do you really understand what food you put on a plate, how much of that is actually being consumed by the guest, and how much is being thrown out? It's actually frightening in the United States how big our portions are. And especially for those who are here internationally, you've got to be just like, how can people eat that much? Right. But what's happened is, as a society, we're conditioned to what's on the plate we're going to eat. So how do you think about portion size? Sometimes we just over-portion because guests feel that they're getting a tremendous value, even though they leave food behind. Or, who invented... I won't use that as an example. You can move the camera off over there. But who invented the to-go box? We did, because we overproduce food. Right? So you have to think about that. But who do you have watching the food that goes into the trash? And if every day somebody's measuring and 20% of your prime rib plate ends up in the garbage, reduce your portion. So it's really important how we study food waste, because environmentally, the impact it makes to the environment. Where do you put this food? It takes a long time for it to decompose. And we don't have that many landfills. So where do you put this food? And I think it's just the right thing to do as companies to make sure you're always thinking about food waste. And if you think about the world scenario, how many people are starving to death? Remember what our parents used to say to us? But it's so true. And we just throw food away in the United States like it's nothing.
You also said that technology plays an important role in managing the company. What kind of technology do you use to increase guest engagement and also to increase collaboration between your departments?
So collaboration between departments, you know, the trusted BlackBerry, iPhones, email, everybody's working 24 hours a day because they've always got some kind of a smart device on them, right? So interdepartmentally, you're always using those as communication methods. With the guest, I think for us, and I'm pushing this because the technology integration group for food and beverage actually sits under my responsibility. I think this is an opportunity we have that I'm so excited about, especially in Chia. We were talking about digital signage. How to leverage digital signage to be able to communicate to the guest the product you're offering, influence them to buy what you want them to buy, to improve your margins, and to move product. So right now we're working on installing 55-inch monitors at all of our QSR locations, and we're putting the menus. So imagine going to a major QSR for us, and you have in one area 2 55-inch monitors. One side of it is about the menu and pictures of the food. And the other side is what we call a marketing board, where we just show the guest the items that are the highest margin items for us. And then also show, hey, here are the items you should add as a dessert or an appetizer, right? So the goal there is to use technology to improve your margin, but also for the guest is to be able to see images of food. We know psychologically if you see a picture of something, you're more likely to order it than if it's written, okay? Now, we are starting to develop menus at Disney, lamb kefta, tandoor chicken, right? So we're starting to put foods that are of international flavors in front of what is primarily a very American crowd as a guest. Pictures tell 1,000 words. It's better for a guest to say, wow, that looks really good, instead of understanding what lamb kefta is. Okay, so we use that really to be able to showcase our menu items. And then the psychology of how you have live action. So is somebody tossing the Caesar salad instead of you just having a picture of a Caesar salad? Is somebody pouring the frozen lemonade where you can see the little icicles hitting the glass? Hey, I want a lemonade, right? That's the psychology of how you use technology to really enhance the experience for the guest, as well as make sure you're maximizing your profits as well.
Thank you.
Could I add one question in terms of technologies? What do you think about mobile payments, and if you're not using it right now, are you thinking seriously about
I think it's a great idea. Disney is so big that the underlaying of the infrastructure to enable that is a tremendous amount of time and expense. But it is something we're starting to look at, you know. So that's something that we've got an entire team focusing on, and hopefully we'll be able to move, you know, a little faster with that. But it's definitely something that we're focused on. It's just a tremendous amount of infrastructure that has to be put in place to be able to, and if you think about all the systems we have today, some of them may not be able to adapt to that type of technology. So you may have to come up with a completely different foundation and start from scratch. And that's in the hundreds of millions of dollars worth of investment. So it's just balancing the cost versus the benefit of that, right?
We've got one question here.
So my family and I, we are annual pass holders to Disney.
Yay!
Yeah, we have been like for forever. And we are also pass holders at other parks. And what I've noticed lately is that at other parks, when you leave the park, they actually have like boxes that you can recycle your maps in. And I have noticed that Disney hasn't had that. I was wondering if Disney was thinking about implementing that to be more green and recycle more. Because there's like hundreds of thousands of maps that are distributed every single day. So I was just wondering.
I think that's a great idea. That's something that I will definitely take back to the team. This is good. Remember, learning happens at all times from all people, so thank you. You just have to sign a waiver that you didn't give me an idea.
We've got one question here.
I was also wondering, I mean, as a nature, Disney is like very happy place, but as one of the leaders in that part, how do you make sure your employees are happy also? How do you make sure they're, I mean, your cast members?
Well, I think number one, you have to be genuine with people, right? and you have to treat them with respect, no matter what level anyone is. And it's about constant interaction. So one of the things that I try to practice all the time is to make sure that I walk by all of the offices that, with cast members that work with me, and always say hello. Just good morning, how are you? If you get to know the cast member, you know that they had a son who just had a volleyball game. Like my secretary's daughter, Hannah, is now playing volleyball. So every Tuesdays and Thursdays, they play volleyball. My secretary leaves a little bit early, which is no problems with me. But every Friday, how did Hannah do? If you take really personal and genuine interest in people that you work with, they will give you 100-fold back. It's appreciating if you're working in the operation, it's making sure every once in a while you carve out time to actually work side by side with your employees. So who's seen that TV show, Undercover Boss?
Oh, yeah.
Right? I haven't seen it, but listen, I go undercover all the time, but I'm not undercover. Okay? It's just put on a uniform and go spend time with your cast members. When you learn so much about your operation, and they'll respect you because you're there working with them and appreciate what they go through to be able to produce such a great experience for the cast. So I think for leadership, remember I talked about humility, being humble, caring about people. It's really, really important to make sure you motivate other people.
May I ask one question also?
Absolutely.
I would like to ask you, I don't know how much you just mentioned about cast members, but I don't know how much time you spent with the cast members at the operation level. But here's what I would like to ask. As a dean of the College of Hospitality and Technology Leadership, my responsibility is to make sure that each and every of our students that you see here and that are not here graduate with wonderful skills. So when they go to Disney, Marriott, Hilton, Darden, Bonefish, whichever company it is, that they are performing at a very superior level. But I'm curious, based on your interaction with the cast members that come from different backgrounds, different schools, different education, including hospitality, maybe business, maybe others, what can you say, or can you tell that there is something missing that we don't do as educators, or we do very well that we should keep doing? So I'm just curious about your experience as, I wish they taught this in the school. I wish they did this in school. Is there something like that?
That's a great question, because I've had this philosophical debate a lot. As you start hiring, people maybe in entry-level leadership roles, I think the expectation coming out of school is that immediately I'm going to go get the $100,000 a year job, and I'm going to put on a suit, and I'm going to sit in an office, and I'm going to watch other people work. So, hell no. Okay? And you know what? That's not what you should want to do. If you're going to be good at this profession, go and learn it from the ground up. Now, I'm not saying that, your first job, you should go be a busser. You've got all of this education. You've got this technical skill that's been taught to you through school. Go get the practical skills, right? Do that. But if you do get into an entry-level role, don't expect to work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and make a ton of money. It took me a long time. If you go and follow people in the profession who are successful, it's taken them a long time to be successful. But you know what? They're better off having gone through every layer that you possibly can, because you will be successful because you appreciate what people go through. You learn the business from inside out. And once you do that, you get a lot more respect, because you can relate to people, you can teach people, rather than just, hey, you know what, I went and got my master's, thank you, that should make me about $100,000 a year. So that's something, and having people go through, I know several students are working. I know you've insisted that they go work and get experience in the restaurant. Please continue to enforce that and make it clear up front. You've got to pay your dues before you land that $100,000 job.
Simon?
I had a question on the culinary side. When you hire students coming out of culinary schools, what sort of skills are you finding lacking, or what kind of training programs do you have to help develop the skills that they're lacking in?
So I think, immediately, if people have not had practical experience and went to culinary school, it's just about how do you handle the volume. So Disney, we don't do 200 covers in a meal period. We do 2,000 covers in a meal period. We have some of our high-end restaurants, California Grill, which is one of our premier experiences. If it does 800 to 1,000 people for dinner, okay, that's an average day. How do you get somebody to produce incredibly high-quality product in the volumes that we produce them at without going completely berserk? I mean, the word, I'm in the weeds, well, they are in the weeds a lot initially. But then you learn the system, and we spend a lot of time teaching our cast members how to deal with this. And then culinary, there's a program called Passport to Excellence. There's specific training all of our cast members go through in culinary to be able to get to a point where they get their passport. And passport really is by getting to different levels of training to fill up your passport to say you've now got your passport to excellence. So the one thing you have to always think about when you get into a management role, or if you own your own company or go work for a company and are in a senior role, teach, 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 and teach. It's important that you do that for every level.
Okay, so last question.
Last question, and then we'll
Okay.
wrap up.
So I worked in Six Flags like 3 years ago, and when I was in a part of that park, we had a program called like bonuses, and what they were doing, for example, if I was walking on the park and if I pick up a trash, which was not my duty because I was one of the servers in the restaurant, they give me a star in the park, and for that day, like if like 10 employees did the same thing, if 10 of them get the star, they put our pictures like during the park in the like I don't know how to say, in the restaurants. Like it wasn't digital signage at that time, but on the boards.
Right, okay.
So do you do something to
We
just like,
do a lot of employee or cast member recognition. There's all kinds of programs. We have one program called the Legacy Award, in which cast members, it's a peer nomination. That somebody could nominate you saying, this is a model cast member for the company, that they exemplify all of these characteristics, and if you that your name goes to a selection committee, and only 2% of all of our cast members get this lifetime award. And if you get that, there's a dinner. I was fortunate enough to have received one prior to being an executive in the company, and the dinner that I was invited to, we had General Colin Powell as our speaker. And then I get invited because now I have my cast members being awarded, and I've been to almost everyone since then, and the speakers are absolutely the top in the world. Of course, the meals are incredible, but we do a lot of employee recognition. Just if you don't mind, I'm going to make a little pitch. At Disney, it is everyone's responsibility to pick up that piece of paper on the floor.
Mr. Danani, thank you so much. This has been exciting and motivating to us, to our students. I got pumped. I'll go back and hopefully get some of the ideas that you do in the business. And we really appreciate the time that you take out of your busy schedule. I know you got 6 million things to do, but you came and you shared experience with our students. We appreciate that. So
This is very important. To me, as industry professionals, you should always think about it the same way. As there will be a time where you have to give back, and do that, with an open heart, because you want to make sure you're giving back to this industry that allow you to grow in your careers. So
we thank
you
you.
for inviting me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.